because I got it, so I got it good.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl 55 champions, led by Tom Brady.
They were the better team today. They beat us pretty good. The worst I think I've been beaten in a long time.
It was a bitterly disappointing end to the Chiefs' season. They were looking to become the first team to repeat since the 2004 Patriots. But after seeing Mahomes run for his life and take too many hits on the biggest stage, it was clear that addressing the offensive line was the biggest priority for the Chiefs this offseason. They said goodbye to former #1 overall pick Eric Fisher and replaced him with Orlando Brown Jr. This move cost Kansas City their 2021 first-round pick, but Brown is now tasked with protecting the blind side of the face of the franchise. Kansas City also overhauled the guard position, making former Patriot Joe Thuney the highest-paid guard in league history, and they signed the previously retired Kyle Long. But will these changes up front be enough for the Chiefs to return to a third straight Super Bowl? A motivated Patrick Mahomes and a potentially improved O-line could mean trouble for the rest of the league.
All right. It is all about running it back and actually completing the task this season for the Kansas City Chiefs there. As you take a look at their schedule, kicking it off week 1 versus Baker Mayfield and the Browns. Now, it is not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though they returned all 22 of their starters, who are the favorite to win Super Bowl 56. Instead, it is the Chiefs right now at plus 500. Patrick Mahomes is the favorite to win MVP, and the Chiefs major favorites when it comes to their division, the AFC West. They are minus 320. But as I mentioned, it's not just about getting back to the Super Bowl, it's about actually winning it. Let's welcome in Evan Washburn. Yesterday we had him at Raiders training camp. Today we've sent him hopping across the country to check out what is going on at Chiefs camp. Evan, I do know there are a couple injuries out there, including Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Baker. But beyond that, what are some of your biggest takeaways regarding what you're seeing?
Well, good news for Chiefs fans, specific to Tyreek Hill. He was back out on the practice field this morning. He was dealing with some knee tendonitis. Main takeaways, Amanda, are just how efficiently run this organization is as a whole, but most notably, just what practice is like to watch. Andy Reid's been doing this for over 20 years as a head coach, and you feel it in the preparation and execution of a practice. It's crisp, it's fast, it's drill to team period, to individuals, to special teams. And in full pads, you get a great view of what this team looks like now. And right now, they look pretty good.
Let's talk about the guy who's the favorite to win MVP right now, of course, Patrick Mahomes. I had to remember this. He actually underwent that surgery at the end of the season to fix his turf toe. We saw him in a boot for a little bit. That seems to be a thing of the past for him. How good is he looking out there?
He looks like Patrick Mahomes, and that turf toe was a real deal down the stretch, obviously, in the AFC Championship game, and even in this Super Bowl, has that procedure done, and he looked really mobile out there. Spoke to Chris Jones, the Pro Bowl defensive lineman, after practice about a number of things, and he mentioned just how deceptively fast Patrick Mahomes is, and that's been one of his priorities as he gets older. 26 years old, is figuring out where his body is, because he's continuing to get bigger and stronger, and as he does that, he figures out ways to continue to be explosive. But he's still doing a lot of the incredible things that you expect to see from him. A couple deep plays down the field and team periods. And there were some throws he missed, and you saw the frustration because his approach every time he's out on the field is perfection. So anytime he doesn't reach that, there's some anger.
Jeremy St. Louis next to me is angry with you right now because you said, is Patrick Mahomes at 26 has to see about getting older and taking care of his body. And then, of course, Tom Brady's 18 years older than him. But we are happy that he's taking care of that right now at the ripe age of 26. Evan, one of the biggest issues the Chiefs had this postseason was a very weak and injured offensive line. We all know that. It was the first thing they worked on to revamp this offseason. They got Joe Thuney out there. Are you seeing a lot of improvement from this O-line?
Well, look, I try to be careful when I'm only here for one day to make sweeping judgments about really any player or any unit. But what I can say is that's the headline for this team and the main thing to watch throughout the preseason and training camp, but most notably week 1 against Cleveland, because it's an entirely new line. If you look at the starters as of right now, you've got the 2 All-Pros in Tooney and Orlando Brown Jr., who they brought over via trade from Baltimore. And then this, to me, is the real headline. It's 3 rookies right now, starting with those 2. You've got 2 draft picks from this year, and then Lucas Niang from last year, who opted out, but all have earned those spots. Mike Remmers is still part of the discussion and competition at that right tackle position, but right now you've got 2 All-Pros and 3 rookies, and they feel good about that right now because obviously the investment they have in Patrick Mahomes, they're not putting anyone in front of them that they don't feel like can block well.
I want to talk about Mecole Hardman here because recently he came out saying, look, he knows it's time to prove himself to his teammates, to his coaches, not living up to people's expectations of him his first 2 seasons in the NFL. Now, both Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid say they've seen improvement from him, but how is he looking compared to Demarcus Robinson right now fighting for that position?
Well, I caught him on a good day, and I've seen plenty of good days from Hardman, but he had the 2 biggest plays, both in the team period, 11-on-11, and then 7-on-7. Some of those downfield gorgeous passes from Patrick Mahomes are right in the hands of Hardman. And that competition, Andy Reid touched on it after practice, is still pretty much wide open. But I just think that Hardman comes into this year with a better command of the offense. Eric Bieniemy mentioned that earlier this week, and that's a big part of that, the mental side for these rookies at that position and how complex and deep this playbook is in Kansas City. The learning curve is steep. So year 3 seems like the natural time to make that big leap because all the talent is there for Hardman.
Evan, the Chiefs are good at a lot of things. They're great, even the best at a lot of things. They were the worst in one glaring category last season, red zone defense, allowing a touchdown on 76.6% of red zone drives. That is the worst in the NFL since the year 2000. What are they doing to fix this right now?
Yeah, that's a jarring number. And if you think about it, too, Amanda, I mean, they were top 10, actually 7th in points against. So you think about if they'd been better in that red zone defense, they might have been the best defense statistically in the league when it comes to allowing points. And I don't know specifically because we're not in that room with Steve Spagnuolo and his staff and his players to what they're doing to address it. I'm sure there'll be some scheme changes, but I look at more on the personnel side of things. And they bring in Jaron Reed from Seattle to kind of anchor that middle. And what that's allowed them to do is put Chris Jones more on the edge. So think of him more now as a defensive end, and his pass rushing ability will really be there to employ, but also in the red zone, you got to be able to stop the run, and Chris Jones is one of the best defensive linemen in that department. They've also invested a ton of draft capital in the linebacker position and the secondary with the hopes of just making this defense better, and that starts with being better in the red zone.
Evan, I need you to look into your crystal ball. Give me your prediction, your very early prediction for the Chiefs this season. There you go. Yeah, just conjure it up. I like that. They're not just the betting favorite to return to the Super Bowl. They're the betting favorite to win the whole thing. What do you think happens to the Chiefs this season?
Well, I think that's a safe bet, if you will, just based off of the continuity they have throughout the coaching staff, the roster, and the bevy of talent they have. And they have, arguably at this point, along with Rodgers and what Brady's doing, the best quarterback in the league. I think it comes down to Kansas City and Buffalo, and maybe Baltimore continues to make that push in the AFC with Tennessee as well in the mix. But I feel confident in thinking Kansas City can get right back to the Super Bowl. Whether they win it, I think they would think they could based off of the fact that they're going to come into this thing with a much better plan when it comes to their offensive line. And again, talking to some of these players, that loss lingers. So for a team who's had so much success over the last 2 years, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, one title, sometimes there's complacency that can settle in. You don't get that vibe here based off of what happened in Tampa that night. That was something that I think jarred all their systems, and they're living with it day to day here. In St. Joseph, Joseph, Missouri, about 30 miles up the road from KC.
We talked to Travis Kelce just about a week ago. He called it an embarrassing loss in the Super Bowl. Evan Washburn out there, as he mentioned, St. Joseph, Missouri. Thanks so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ to break down what he is seeing from Chiefs training camp. We are not done. We're going to talk to Evan a little bit later. We've also got a preview of the Saints, how they're looking for the first time in 15 years. Drew Brees is not in that building or on the field with his teammates. Pete Briscoe's there. And then tomorrow, we'll give you previews of the Seahawks and the Bears. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.